Okay, welcome back guys. In this tutorial we're going to look at Python numbers, and in Python numbers we have the integer, we have the float, and we have the complex numbers. Now like we said earlier, if we have something like this, it's simply an integer, and if we have our y set to 2.5 or 2.6, what we have is actually a float. Okay, then we can say let z be set to 1j, and so what we have is actually a complex number. If we want to check any of these types, we are going to use the print type. So going to find the print type, and we can now pass say z to it, and when we run the program, we say this is a complex type. So we can use that same method to verify each of other numbers that we have there. All right. So integer or int is a whole number which can be positive or negative without decimals of unlimited length. Okay. So it can be positive, it can be negative, can be without decimal or limited length. Then we have float. A floating point number is a number positive or negative but containing one or more decimals. It can be something like this. This is a floating point number. It can as well be something like this. This is a floating point number. Okay. However it is, to contain one or more decimals. Now, floating point number can also be scientific numbers with an e that indicates the power. For instance, this can be 25 to power 3. Okay. So if we still check the type of y here, it's going to still tell us that what we have there is actually float. Okay. What it means is that 24.0 times 10 to power e. That's 10 to power 3. Okay. So we talk about complex number. Complex numbers are written with a g as the imaginary part. In other words, we have the real part and the imaginary part. So we can have 4 plus 1j. Okay. So if we check the type of y, what is it going to give us? Still give us, what do we have? Sorry, I'm going to check the type of z, not y. So it gives us that this is a complex number. So this is a complex number. All right. Okay. So that is complex number. Now we can do type conversion. How do we do type conversion? We convert from int to float by putting the float in front of the int. For instance, if we have x that is set to 1, we can change x. Let's call it a now. We can now change x to float. Okay. Now we pass it into this place and change it. Remember that our x is int. Now let's assume we have done this. Let's now print the type of a, what it is. So if we print the type of a, it's going to tell us that a has now become float. Okay. So let's print a on its own. So if we do this, we are printing what's the value of a. Now instead of giving me 1, it's now giving me 1.0. Okay. We can as well convert float to int. Let's assume I have float. We have confirmed that this has become a float. I can now say let b be set to int a. Okay. And print the type of B now. All right. So, and even print B. Okay, so if I run this program again, that which I have changed to float is going to come back. So we'll now see that what I now have in this place, I changed X to float and printed a type of A, which is now this, and it showed me that it is now float. And when I printed A, it gave me 1.0. And that same thing, I changed the type to int, and I printed the type. It showed me that the type is now int. And then when I printed it, instead of saying 1.0, it's now giving me 1. Next, we can as well change this. Instead of changing this A to int, I can now put complex here. Let me change it to complex number. And now when I print this, when I print again, it tells me, look at what I have. All right. It's now complex, and this is the value here. Okay. So that is how you can change from one type to another. And another thing we need to know is random number. Python does not have a random number function to make a random number. Okay, but Python has a built-in model called random that can be used to make random numbers. So if I want to generate a random number in Python, what I am going to do is first to import, what I'm going to do now is first to import random. Okay. So I say import random. Now the moment I've imported this, I can now generate random numbers by calling this. Okay, and I can put the randarrange function in order to generate a range of random numbers that I want. Now in this, the aim is just to show you how to go about getting a random number from Python. So it's going to take the first argument, the start. Where am I starting and where am I stopping? So the moment I say start from 1 and I put my comma, where am I going to stop? Okay, the second argument is where am I going to stop? I can say stop at 50. Then the third argument can be in what steps. I say, okay, generate into two steps. Okay, when I do this, and so it's now showing me this. It's going to generate one random number. So if I refresh again, it's going to generate another one showing me 17. Okay, if I generate again, what is it going to show me? So you discover that I now have this. Okay, so if I say generate, if I make the step 1, let's see what's going to happen. If I do it, give me 46 and so on and so forth. So this might not actually be used. I have this, the first point and the second point. So the random number is going to be between 1 and 50. Or I can as well start from 0. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, that is it for Python numbers. See you again in the next lecture. Thank you very much.